Anyone who lived through 1986 will remember the Chernobyl incident, and even those born after will understand the devastating events that followed it. Basically, a nuclear explosion and a meltdown that traumatized the world and left the land poisoned, which caused many animals to be affected and mutated as a result. From a mutated piglet to radioactive spiderwebs, here are your top 10 disturbing animal mutations caused by Chernobyl. Let's get right into this list. Coming in at our number 10 spot, we have the mutated pig. Spider pig, anyone? No? No? Okay. What you are seeing is a mutated piglet that was born near the site of the original explosion. This piglet suffered from dipigus, which is a congenital deformity where the body axis forks left and right partway along the torso, with the posterior end, which is the pelvis and legs, duplicated. And if you double back on this photo, it kind of looks straight out of a scene from a horror movie. Kinda like The Thing. At a number 9 spot, we have radioactive spiders. Spiders have been the subject of many people's fears for many years, but recent developments in Chernobyl have added a whole new layer of terror to their existence. These spiders are living in the exclusion zone, which is the area surrounding the site of the infamous nuclear disaster. The spiders that inhabit this area are not only radioactives themselves, but also began to spin webs that are radioactive too. This development is straight out of a comic book. The radioactive spiders and their webs are dangerous to other animals that are not radioactive. This means that non-radioactive animals that come into contact with them could suffer from radiation poisoning. Even humans who venture into the exclusion zone need to be careful, as they could easily walk into these webs and be exposed to dangerous levels of radiation. These spiders have also developed new ways of weaving their webs, which suggests that they have undergone some sort of genetic mutation due to the radiation. This mutation could have significant implications for the ecosystem of this exclusion zone and also beyond. And it's just crazy to think that just by walking through a cobweb, it could make you suffer from radiation poisoning. Crazy. At our number 8 spot, we have the blackbird of Chernobyl. In the days leading up to the Chernobyl disaster, several workers in the control room of the nuclear power plant claimed to have seen a terrifying creature in the sky. The creature was described as a hideous humanoid with giant wings, a black headless body, and red glowing eyes. It was said to be a bringer of doom, sending a message of imminent disaster to all who gazed upon it. Ever since, it's been known as the blackbird of Chernobyl. Sydney archaeologist Robert Maxwell claims that the legend of the blackbird is more than just a spooky story. Maxwell is the only archaeologist to have ever worked at Chernobyl, completing 2 field excursions at the exclusion zone both in 2010 and 2012. He is very passionate about the place in both a historical and archaeological sense, and there's little he doesn't know about Chernobyl on matters of both physical and supernatural. Maxwell told news.com.au that the legend of the blackbird of Chernobyl was something he had heard about when he was in the exclusion zone. He said that the legend states that in the days leading up to the disaster, a supernatural creature was sighted in the sky over Chernobyl by many of the men in the control room. They also claimed to have seen this terrifying creature just before the explosion. This is what made many believe this mutated bird or man was a messenger of danger. So basically, if you see it, something bad is bound to happen. Kinda like the Mothman. At a number 7 spot, we have the cows. Around the area of Chernobyl, agriculture was once a primary source of income before the disaster. And after the disaster, these animals were exposed to high levels of radiation. More specifically, the cows. Many farmers took their cows with them when they evacuated the area, but the radiation had already affected them. The newer generation saw much more of the effects of radiation. In 1989, farmers began reporting birth defects in their animals, and as time went on, the cows became less mutated. However, the effects did not go away completely. Cows began to graze on contaminated feed, leading to more internal effects. Even completely normal looking cows near the exclusion zone started producing milk that was both toxic and unfit for consumption. This is just one of the clear examples of how, even though the visible effects of radiation exposure may have worn off, there are still lasting effects that we had not previously considered. And to make matters worse, this didn't only affect the surrounding area. The Mexican government stated in January 1988 that they destroyed 41 tons of imported powdered milk because it was reportedly contaminated with radiation from the nuclear disaster. More specifically, the milk is contaminated with cesium-137 and strontium-90, which cause a syndrome that destroys cell membranes. And all I can say is, I'll be taking a small hiatus off milk for a bit. At a number 6 spot, we have chickens. Scientists have reported the presence of mutated chickens with deformed beaks and an extra set of legs in areas surrounding the nuclear power plant. These chickens almost look unreal and doesn't resemble their species at all. Experts believe that the mutations in chickens are a result of radiation exposure, with the birds being particularly susceptible to genetic damage due to their fast reproductive cycle. It is advised as well that humans should avoid consuming these chickens as they may cause health issues. I thought that was a given. Although these deformities may seem alarming, it's important to note that not all mutations are harmful and some may even be advantageous in certain environments. In the Humper list, we have wild boars. 30 years after the nuclear disaster, radiation is still causing so many concerns in unexpected places. One such place is the mountains of Czech Republic, where wild boars are becoming eradicated from eating wild mushrooms during the winter months. The radioactive metal cesium-137 was spewed in the atmosphere during the 1986 disaster and was blown almost 1,000 miles away to the Czech Republic. Mushrooms in the region absorb this radiation, and when wild boars consume them, the radiation travels up the food chain. The contaminated boars are not safe for human consumption, which is a problem in a country where boar meat is commonly used in stews and goulash. Cesium-137 is not safe for human consumption as it spreads radioactive atoms throughout the body, increasing the risk of cancer. While a low dose of cesium-137 is unlikely to cause harm, consuming it multiple times a week for several months may lead to some health issues. Food inspectors in the Czech Republic screen wild meat before it goes to the market, and from 2014 to 2016, almost half of the 614 pigs inspected were too radioactive to eat. But if you visit the Czech Republic now and consume wild boar, you should be safe as hazardous meat is banned from use. It is essential to note that the contamination is not turning the boars into mutant animals, but it is a warning sign that radiation from the Chernobyl disaster continues to have consequences more than 3 decades later. At our number 4 spot, we have firebugs. In 2011, 2 friends stumbled upon a group of tiny but deadly creatures while out collecting flowers in the exclusion zone. These creatures, known as firebugs, are radioactive and were discovered by the friends for scientific reasons, which is to study the pollen, not to create a deadly radioactive bouquet of flowers. The friends collected hundreds of these bugs, some from areas with higher levels of radiation and some from areas with lower levels of radiation. Through their research, they found that the bugs exposed to higher levels of radiation had deformities, confirming suspicions about the negative effects of radiation on living creatures. Although these creatures may seem harmless at first, their radioactive properties make them a danger to humans. You wouldn't want these guys crawling on your skin for a number of reasons. And with their small size and deadly nature, it's really easy to see why these firebugs are a cause for concern in the Chernobyl area. And it just shows that you can't even collect flowers in this place, so best believe avoid it completely. Number 3, the barn shallot. In the aftermath of the Chernobyl disaster, not only were humans affected, but the entire ecosystem was thrown into chaos. Animals who lived in the exclusion zone, including those who spend most of their time in the sky, were exposed to the effects of radiation. Among those affected animals are the barn swallows, whose physical appearance has been altered by the disaster. The barn swallows of Chernobyl have suffered from severe deformities that have persisted throughout the years since the nuclear meltdown. These birds have been affected more than their land animal counterparts, and it's still unclear why. It is also uncertain if these changes will reverse back to their previous state. Currently, the swallows have severely deformed beaks, disproportionate feathers, partial albinism, and smaller brains. While some of these issues are more severe than others, they undoubtedly have a significant impact on the swallow's way of life. Despite these obstacles, the barn swallows continue to adapt as time goes by. Number 2, the Przewalski's horse. The Przewalski's horse is a wild horse originating from Mongolia and was once on the brinks of extinction due to hunting and difficulties in reproduction in captivity. Harsh winters in their natural habitat didn't make things easier for the species as well. But in the late 1990s, hope was restored for the Przewalski's horse when a group of 30 horses were released into the Ukrainian side of the exclusion zone. Amazingly, some of the original horses are still alive to this day, and camera trap images have shown young horses as well. This is a huge win for the species as their expanding population in such a harsh environment means that they might potentially be able to return from the brink and continue as a species. Some Przewalski horses have significant deformities, but this doesn't change the fact that they're an excellent example of how successful conservation efforts can help repopulate endangered species. Number 1, the European grey wolves. In the aftermath of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, the exclusion zone surrounding the site of the accident was evacuated by humans, leaving the wildlife to thrive in radioactive environments. While some species have struggled to adapt to the aftermath of the disaster, others, such as the European grey wolf, have been thriving in this unusual environment. Despite the high levels of radiation, the grey wolf population has been able to grow, with the population in the area being 7 times higher than in comparable sites. Researchers are also still trying to figure out why this is happening, but it is clear that radiation is not affecting the wildlife's ability to reproduce, but it is causing deformities in some. As their population grows, they're beginning to travel farther and spread out, which is creating a new set of challenges, and coming into contact with radioactive wolves could result in a high dose of radiation, which is not recommended. Touching a carcass of these wolves is also really bad, because if you do touch them with your bare hands, you'll probably get radiation poisoning. Well, these are the top 10 disturbing animal mutations caused by Chernobyl. What did you guys think about this list? Leave a comment down below with your thoughts and some suggestions for some future videos. I'm your host Andrew, and be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you never miss a future video. I hope you guys have a scary day.